Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and it has been a minute, guys. For those of you who didn't know, if you're not in the Discord, I was actually at the beach with some friends, so I wasn't, creating content during that time, just kind of enjoying time with the family, with my friends. So we had a lot of fun there, and honestly, it was the first time I was thinking about it. It was the first time where I wasn't releasing content and actually was relaxing at that time. Other times it's been because I've had children, or we were moving, doing this or that. So it felt good to kind of recharge the batteries a little bit. And of course, a ton of new stuff came into the game. Got a lot of information. So I do want to cover all of that stuff with you guys. So we're going to get into that. But first and foremost, let's give a huge shout out to the channel members. Again, guys, their continued support is so much appreciated. Thank you guys again. I love every single one of you. If you guys are interested in joining channel memberships, link in the description down below. Otherwise, guys, make sure you like that video, subscribe, comment, let me know your thoughts. It really helps boost the channel and boost the numbers that this does on YouTube. So let's go into the game here. And we got the final batch of Leia Rex. So I actually am going to just take a look at the, while I'm doing this, I'm going to make sure that I can get here. Yep, there we go. All right, so if we go here, we look at the screen, you guys can see the dev post. Now, again, I know other creators have covered this, but I do want to give my thoughts on a few things because people are going to ask. I'm just going to skip this section where they talk about Leia, right? It's cool. So the first big thing we get here is what we're going to need Leia for. And you've got Conquest, Galactic Challenges, Datacrons, and Economy Events. So this one is normal. This one, I'm a little bit nervous with these two. I hope it's a case that it's win with Rebels or win with something that you don't necessarily need Leia for. Particularly for the challenges. I think for Conquest, it'll probably be you're going to need Leia. But I hope that there's some of those workarounds. I think of the Inquisitor situation where, you had Purge and you could do it with lower gear Inquisitors, or if there was a get kills that you could cheese it with a single one. I hope that there's ways that can happen. I'm sure there will be. So what I don't want is Leia to be this gateway to people getting max crate and not getting max crate, because I don't think that's healthy for the longevity of this game. So there is that. I mean, Datacrons, it is what it is. We can skip that. Now, the economy events, a new Endor escalation tier. This is very important. This is Leia getting on par with Jabba in terms of usefulness, right? Jabba's got his special Smuggler's Run 2 event for mods. I'll be very curious to see what they do for Leia. I don't think it would be mods. I'd be really shocked if they did mods. So I'd be curious what direction that goes, whether it's Kyrotech, relic materials. It'll be really interesting. I'm excited for that. Economy events are always welcome. So she's going to be very important for that. Now, speaking of her squad, they said that you will not need to take apart your Commander Luke Skywalker team to create the ideal Leia team. Now, this is where I get a little, I'm like, okay, but then it says you should be able to build a strong Leia squad while keeping CLS intact, and a key part of pulling this off was designing Captain Drogan. So hopefully that's the case. This should scares me, but the create the ideal team, you should not need to. Whoops, we're clicking all over the place here. There we go. The you should not need to is really good for me. I think that's a solid step. So I'm excited for that. Now, we did talk about set 2 already, but they gave us set 3 requirements here. So you've got Lobot with a rework coming, only Relic 3, so whatever, right? That's fine. The rework is interesting. I want to cover this rework. I wonder if it's going to be droid related. I wonder if it's going to be Rebel related, because if it's droid related, you could easily put him with Shorty. So that's just something to think about. There are some other ways that we can use Lobot. So I'm kind of curious how he fits into this team. 3PO and Chewie, Commander Luke Skywalker to Relic 7. I about jumped for joy. I'd been wanting to take them to higher relics, and this was a perfect excuse. Coors Light Leia to Relic 5. That's a shoo-in if you have Jabba. And I'll give Capital Games a lot of credit. We'll cover this as well. I think these relic requirements are very player-friendly. And then Captain Drogan to Relic 7. I mean, look, they got to put the screws to us somehow. So that does move the total, and we'll cover that in a little bit, but it does move the total of new characters up to Relic 7 to 4. They updated the list of characters we can use in the raid to basically include Rex, Nisa, Scout Trooper, Drogan, and Leia, which we all could have seen that coming, so that's fine, right? We're okay with all that. I don't have a problem with any of these characters. I think they're all, I'm fine with every single one of them, and I think that, when I look at these, the vast majority of the player base is going to be able to have teams to be able to create and participate in this raid. The rewards for this will be in parity with existing crate raids, okay, right? They talk about that the Mark III raid currency is moving. And then they came down here and talked about the cadence of the raids and that they're looking to take the 3-day cadence and adjust it to 6 days. That is awesome. And that's not going to change the rewards. They're just going to keep the same duration of the raid, but double the start cost and the rewards. That is awesome. I definitely feel like the crate raid cadence is a bit much, particularly when you've got your conquests, you know, GAC, all these other things going on, and you got a raid on top of it. It can be a lot of stuff going on. So this was awesome. I really feel that was a great move on their part. And the raid length, they're definitely being released at a faster pace than what we find enjoyable. But then they come around and say, so for this one, we're estimating it's going to be between 8 to 9 months. So let that sink in. This raid is around for 8 to 9 months, which means that Leia's peak performance in this game will be about 8 to 9 months as a Galactic Legend. So that definitely makes you wonder as to what the next stuff will be. What will the next raid require? Is it another Galactic Legend, or are they going to move back to ones that are already existing in the game? I'll be curious to see how they handle this going forward. Because, you know, are you just going to create it for Afra or Jedi Knight Cal? Or, like, what are we going to be doing with these raids moving forward? Because if we're getting a new Galactic Legend every 8 months, that'd be way too much going on. So I'll be curious how that kind of continues to transpire. So that's their dev post. I wanted to cover that, but I want to go back to the game. Because what everybody wants to know truly is, what am I doing and what should you be doing? So, of course, my game's frozen right now. It's going to crash. BlueStack's going to crash here. Come on. Let's go. Close out of it. Bring it back up. Let's go. All right. So, we're going to start our game here, of course. Come on now. You can do it, little buddy. I know you can. Go find my game. So, with this crash, of course, it gives us a moment just to kind of reflect a little bit on all the news that we've got. And there's some good things that Capital Games is doing here. There are some good things Capital Games is doing here. I think the communication with us is fantastic. Even if you don't necessarily like some of the news, I want to give them credit that they are communicating these things with us and trying to be more transparent, because that's a big part of the feedback we've been giving them. Is we almost never get the full story. We never get the full picture with things, and they kind of throw it at us. So, good stuff on their part. I think that everything in there was good information. So, we've got the Leia requirements here. So, the first thing I want to focus on is the Jedi Knight Luke Rex that you needed at Relic 3 for the event, which was Commander Luke Skywalker, Lando, Rebel Officer Leia Organa, and Captain Han. Those 4 characters you need for Jedi Knight Luke. So, right there is 4 relics you already have done. Then, if you have Jedi Master Luke, you would have taken Lando to Relic 5, which is the relic level we need him at for Leia as well. So there's something done. R2-D2 is a Relic 7 requirement for Jedi Master Luke and a Relic 8 for Leia. So going up a relic level, even though it's a Relic 8, you've already done a lot of the work for this character. And then Chupio is a Relic 5 requirement for Jedi Master Luke and is now Relic 7 for GL Leia. So if you guys can't tell already, I've gone ahead and started putting relics on these characters, getting them up to where I need them to be, because in my mind, I'm going to be in a good position to get Leia. We'll kind of talk about that, and I'll show you guys that if you're following the farming guide and been paying attention, you should be in pretty decent shape yourself. So Coors Light Leia is a Jabba requirement, and again, I have her at Relic 5 because that's what she's needed for Jabba, which is also coincidentally what they require for GL Space Buns as well. So again, another rec done for me. I get it. You know, you're like, oh, wow, Phil, well, you know, not all of us are that lucky. I get it, guys, but this is part of the state of the game that we're in now. They're moving away. I think I want to give them a lot of credit that it's not just, oh, go gear up these brand new characters, like all these new characters or these ones that nobody has. I think they're trying to get back a little bit to some of those thematic Galactic Legend things, because let's be honest, outside of, you know, I mean, the Rex and the Nisa and, you know, Drogan, we could talk about that till the cows come home, but you compare that to the Jabba team, you compare that to some of these other things, and I think that they really heard some of our feedback that we're not a big fan of these Rex that don't make sense for the GL. So, you know, hats off to them. Now, the Ewoks here. We need Chirpa, we need Wicket, and we need Princess Nisa. what I want to say here is that these are all characters you can use for C-3PO. And so now we're in this position where I feel that because we have, like, you can use those characters. If you're a newer player and you're like, I need to go get C-3PO, if you farm Nisa, Wicket, and Chirpa, and you put a little bit more gear on them, that's gear that's going to come back to you when you do Leia. One of the big things that kept me from putting more gear into these characters was there was no skin in the game after it. There was nothing to be like, oh, well, Phil eventually need to relic them, so if you take him to gear 10, gear 11, it's going to, this gear that you'll eventually have to put on anyway. That was not the case with Ewoks, and now that it is, I think the C-3PO event is only going to get easier. I feel that a lot more players are going to have better success with it because you won't feel like you need to do it with gear 8s and gear 9s. You can throw a little bit more of that gear onto these characters and get it done. And especially because Nisa is a requirement here, I feel like you got to find a way to use her in that event. So yeah, like thumbs up, Capital Games. Great stuff here. Really, really like the, finally kind of giving us 3 Ewoks as well to be able to use in a 3v3 event. So yeah. Admiral Akbar to Relic 3 is a requirement. Again, he's a fleet commander. And he's going to be your fleet commander for a while. This is what I don't think a lot of players fully grasp. Profundity kind of got shifted towards way late in the game now because of Leviathan, Executor. Profundity is going to be in this weird kind of state. So Akbar is going to be your rebel fleet commander for a very long time. And having him at Relics is something that I think a lot of players will appreciate. That will make that fleet that much better, especially if you're running the Millennium Falcon and the Outrider and stuff before you get Profundity. I think this was a great relic for a lot of players. And honestly, like, I've had this Omicron on him for a very long time, and I've always felt it wasted. And now, with him being relicked, I might start trying to use this thing again and see what I can do. So, yeah, really, really pleased here. The Lobot rework, I kind of mentioned it. I don't know what it's going to be, whether it be Rebels, whether it will be, droid-related. We don't know. I mean, an Omicron's coming. He's getting an Omicron. That's the only way they do reworks anymore. But I really think that this is a solid move by Capital Games. This is a character where there was no home for this character. There was no place. So, really looking forward to see how they bring Lobot back into the game. Because, again, reworks are something that is great for this game. Like, as much as I love to say, oh, he's getting an Omicron, reworks are awesome. Because instead of them just bringing out a new character that you've got to go farm, that you got to do this, they put in a character that a lot of people just have sitting around that you don't know what to do with. I love it. I'm very, very happy to see a rework coming for Lobot. Now, these last few characters here, Rex, Scout Trooper, and Drogan. You guys can see I already put some gear on Scout Trooper because I plan on using him with Iden Versio. Because my Iden team is all lower gear characters anyway, so I may as well try and insert Scout Trooper and just see what happens. But they're characters that kind of complete teams. You look, Scout Trooper completes that Imperial Remnant squad and is going to end up being used with the new Moff Gideon, so that's awesome. Captain Rex kind of goes into that Phoenix team and creates something, or can go with clones in 3v3. So, again, a really solid addition. They're characters that I think, I don't want to say that we're missing, but that are trying to take existing things and at least bring them into the fold. And then Drogan, this was kind of the piece that, I would say was keeping me back from committing to Leia before. Was they mentioned that you need Drogan for her team. And if Drogan was not going to be part of the requirements for Leia, in my mind, automatically, that's an extra relic I need to do for Leia. Because I need to get Drogan to get the best out of that team. So them putting Drogan in her requirements, in my mind, is one of the best player-friendly moves. I think this would be the equivalent of putting Commander Tano and Maul as part of the Lord Vader and Kenobi requirements. That you're already going to be investing in them anyway, so you just get to check the box as a Galactic Legend requirement. So I think this is great. So those are the, again, that's just really, really good stuff here. And now, finally, kind of getting to the what should you do with your account. If you've been following along in the Fat Phil Farming Guide, you know that obviously you're going for Executor first. Remember, that's a big part of this guide is you've got to get Executor first. Executor first was there for so many reasons because you need those crystals. Crystals are what's going to drive you to be able to go for those things like Jabba and be able to go for these things like Leia, Jedi Master Luke, whoever. So you got to get your Executor. And when you get Executor, remember, you're getting Darth Vader. You're getting Piet, who, guess what? Piet happens to be needed for that new for the new raid, so you're getting a good character there at Relic 8 of all things. Darth Vader, right? Why am I mentioning Darth Vader? We're going to come down here because you're going to get to Jedi Knight Luke. And you need Vader at Relic 3 anyway, so you've already got Vader done. So yeah, you got Hermit Yoda, you've got Wampa that you've got to invest in, but look, you've also got Rebel Officer Leia Organa, who happens to be a requirement for GL Leia. You're going to be working on Ewoks, so you throw in Princess Nisa in here to get your C-3PO event, and hey, you look at that, you're rocking and rolling here. And then Jedi Knight Luke's also got Rolo, Captain Han, and Lando, so again, additional characters that we're working towards. And then you get Jedi Knight Luke, who not only happens to be a great character, but also for this new raid is a character you can use. And I've been telling a lot of players, if you're going for Jabba and you're kind of at this point of Jedi Knight Luke, this is where you can pivot from. Now, the decision you have to make for yourself is how close are you to Jabba and how long will it take you to get Leia. Because I don't want you to just stop doing Jabba and move on to Leia if you've got a lot of stuff to do. Because what I think will happen is you'll get to Leia and you might not be able to get as much use out of her as you might of a Jabba. Because Jabba's characters are starting to go accelerated, and that's going to make things that much easier for you. So I don't think that it's necessarily worth stopping for Jabba, but this was why this farming guide, I feel so confident with it, was the next thing I said was, like, okay, go Relic 8 Han, which, okay, of all things, you put some relics on Han, maybe you Relic 8 him, like, it's not the worst thing in the world, he's a great character. And then I said, hey, build some characters here before you get down here. So I feel like if you were thinking of, do you pivot, the question becomes how far down in the Jabba Rex did you get? Because if you're like at this point where you've got relics on, everybody else and you're down at like, then yeah, just finish off Jabba. That you gotta bite that bullet, finish off Jabba, even if you don't get to use him in the crate raid, if you don't whatever happens, you still are gonna have a character that you're getting the mods for that's gonna help you in GAC, Conquest, Territory Battles, Territory Wars, and that's gonna boost your account to be able to get Leia faster. I think a lot of times players try to switch gears thinking that, yeah, I'll get Leia in 12 months instead of, say, 18, but, I'll get Leia in 12 months instead of maybe finishing Jabba and then getting Leia in 18 months. But if you would have finished Jabba first, maybe you get Leia in, say, 15. So realistically, the time that it would take you to get stop Jabba, work on Leia, and then go finish off Jabba would say be 18 months. Again, I'm just throwing numbers out here. Whereas you finish Jabba, and then you go finish Leia, and it's going to take you maybe 15, because the resources you've got from Jabba help you get closer and closer to Leia. So, guys, that's just kind of my thought process, that I think the farming guide still really holds up, just you kind of pivot from Jedi Knight Luke depending on where you are and what you think the game needs. Because I still think Jedi Knight Luke is worth getting because Hermit Yoda is a great character, Wampa's a great character, and then the rest of the requirements for Jedi Knight Luke all have multiple uses, whether it's Chewbacca, who happens to be a pilot for the Millennium Falcon and a Jedi Master Luke requirement, C-3PO, Jabba, Gas, Jedi Knight Luke, Jedi Master Luke, Rolo, Lando, Captain Han, all those characters are needed for, Jedi Knight Luke here. So I'd feel really good about where you're at. I'd feel really good with these requirements. And I think that Capital Games is really trying to give players a thumbs up to say, yes, you know what? We're trying to make sure that everybody's going to be able to at least make a shot at Leia. So, yeah, guys, that's my video. I know it's, one of the longer ones, but let me know your thoughts. Obviously, we'll get back in the track and swinging things. So, guys, if you're still watching right now, go ahead. You know the drill. Wampa is king in the comments. I love all you. May the force be with you. I'll see everybody in the next video. Cheers.